Robinho's feat dazzled for giants like Real Madrid and AC Milan, and he was often hailed as the next Pelé in his youth. With his Samba-like flair, he won league titles in Spain and Italy and scored 28 goals for Brazil. Yet behind the famous smile lurked darkness. In 2013, after a night of partying in Milan, Robinho and a group of friends committed a horrific crime: the gang rape of a 22-year-old woman in a nightclub VIP area. By the time Italian courts brought charges, Robinho had left Europe. Years of trials in absentia followed. In 2017, an Italian court convicted Robinho and 5 accomplices of the rape, handing down a 9-year prison sentence. He remained in Brazil, proclaiming his innocence as appeals played out. Italy's Supreme Court upheld the conviction in 2022, and with Brazil's policy of not extraditing citizens, the case reached a standoff. In March 2024, Brazil's Supreme Court agreed to enforce the Italian sentence, making it official. On March 21, 2024, Robinho was arrested by Brazilian police to begin serving his 9-year term. It was a stunning image. A former Galactico and World Cup star led off in handcuffs. Robinho's name, once cheered by millions, is now synonymous with disgrace. He went from dazzling on the pitch to becoming a convicted sexual predator, a shocking downfall for a one-time superstar. Jhon Viafara once lived a dream on the pitch. A Colombian midfielder who scored the goal that won once called us the Copa Libertadores in 2004 and later featured in the English Premier League. He was strong, skillful, and earned 34 caps for Colombia. But after retiring in 2015, Viafara's life took a terrifying detour. He became involved with a cocaine trafficking ring, working to ship massive quantities of drugs from South America to the U.S. In 2018, U.S. authorities indicted him as part of an international narco conspiracy, dubbing him by the codename Futbolista. The ex-midfield star was arrested and extradited to Texas in 2020. In court, prosecutors painted a stark picture. Viafara had it all: fame, wealth, stature, yet chose to use his talents to advance the evil of the drug trade. Facing the evidence, Viafara pleaded guilty to cocaine importation. In April 2021, a U.S. judge sentenced him to 135 months, over 11 years, in federal prison. The man who once hoisted continental silverware will spend much of his 40s behind bars. Michel Platini was football royalty, a 3-time Ballon d'Or winner with 41 goals for France and a 1984 European Championship trophy to his name. After retiring, he climbed the administrative ranks to become UEFA's president, seemingly destined to lead global football. But Platini's legacy crumbled in scandal. In 2015, he was banned from the sport for ethics violations over a disloyal payment of 2 million Swiss francs he took while at FIFA. The one-time maestro of Juventus in France found himself cast out in disgrace. An 8-year ban, later reduced to 4, effectively ended his career in football governance. Platini insists the payment was legitimate, but the damage was done. The man who once ruled Europe's midfield became a symbol of corruption at the top. His fall from grace reached a low in 2019, when he was even questioned by French authorities over World Cup bribery suspicions. Though ultimately cleared of criminal charges in Switzerland, Platini's name is forever tarnished. The ex-king of European football traded his throne for a scandal, proving that even the mighty aren't above the law. It's a stunning reversal, from scoring free kicks to getting the ultimate red card from football itself. A one-club man at Charlton Athletic, Richard Rufus was once a Premier League stalwart known for solid defense. He even helped Charlton win promotion and was adored by fans. But after retirement, Rufus built a new career on lies. Between 2007 and 2010, he conned friends and family out of £15 million in a foreign currency trading scam. Using his reputation as a successful ex-player, he promised low-risk, high-return investments. In reality, it was a Ponzi scheme. Early investors were paid with money from later ones. Rufus blew hundreds of thousands on himself, funding a lavish lifestyle to keep the illusion going. The scheme collapsed, and Rufus was exposed as a fraudster. In January 2023, at 48 years old, he was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and money laundering, and jailed for 7.5 years. The Charlton Hall of Famer had used his sporting fame as bait for victims, betraying those closest to him. As one investigator put it, Rufus deliberately deceived those who trusted him, shattering friendships and lives in the process. From defender to deceiver, Rufus's story is a cautionary tale of greed. He traded the glory of the pitch for a prison cell, leaving his reputation in ruins. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Peter Storey was Arsenal's enforcer, a gritty defensive midfielder who helped the Gunners win the historic 1971 double. He earned 19 England caps with his no-nonsense style. Off the pitch, Storey was known as a bit of a bad boy, but nothing prepared fans for what came came after retirement. Once his playing days ended, Storey plunged into a life of crime. He became entangled with London's underworld, dabbling in a series of illegal schemes that sound like a crime novel. In 1979, he was arrested for running a brothel in partnership with known gangsters. The very next year, he was caught trying to counterfeit gold coins, an elaborate plot that landed him behind bars for 3 years. As if that wasn't enough, he also got nailed for importing pornography. Yes, the former Arsenal captain was literally smuggling dirty magazines. Storey served prison time for those offenses and gained a tabloid nickname as Bank of England for the fake currency caper. The man who once policed the midfield with crunching tackles ended up a prisoner twice over. In his memoir, he admitted he went off the rails after football, getting involved with the wrong crowd. Now living quietly in France, he's on marriage number 4, trying to leave the wild days behind. Few players ever enjoyed life like Ronaldinho. The Brazilian wizard won the Ballon d'Or, a World Cup, and Champions League, all with a trademark toothy grin. His skill made millions love the game. After retiring, however, Ronaldinho's famous joyride lifestyle steered him into a bizarre international scandal. In March 2020, he and his brother tried to enter Paraguay with fake passports, apparently provided by a local businessman. Why would an icon who never needed a visa do this? The truth is still murky. Some say it was to bypass a legal travel restriction from a Brazilian investigation into his finances. Caught red-handed, Ronaldinho was jailed in a Paraguayan prison where he famously passed time by playing foot volley with inmates. He spent 32 days in a grim Asuncion jail, even celebrating his 40th birthday inside before being moved to house arrest in a luxury hotel. The spectacle was as surreal as his free kicks, a global star swapping 5-star suites for a cell. After 6 months tangled in legal limbo, he struck a plea deal. He and his brother pleaded guilty to the passport offense, paid hefty fines, and were released in August 2020. Ronaldinho returned to Brazil with a record formerly wiped clean in Paraguay. But the damage was done. The episode dented his golden image, proving even the most joyful player on earth isn't immune to taking a disastrous misstep. From World Cup glory to a jailhouse story, Ronaldinho's post-retirement saga was equal parts tragic and absurd. Nizar Trabelsi was a Tunisian striker who once played professionally in Germany's lower leagues. By the late 90s, his football career was fizzling out, but it's what he did next that shocked the world. Trabelsi became a terrorist. He fell in with radical Islamists, and in the summer of 2001, he was plotting mass murder for Al-Qaeda. Just 2 days after September 11th, Belgian police arrested Trabelsi in Brussels. Investigators say he was preparing a suicide bombing against a NATO air base housing American soldiers. It was a chilling revelation. A former soccer pro prepared to kill himself and others in the name of jihad. In 2003, a Belgian court convicted Trabelsi of terrorism charges, including association with Al-Qaeda, and sentenced him to 10 years in prison. He served his term in Europe, but the US, which had soldiers targeted in his plot, wanted their turn. Upon his Belgian release, Trabelsi was extradited to the United States in 2013 to face further terrorism conspiracy charges. After nearly a decade in American custody awaiting trial, amid legal battles over his extradition, a US court surprisingly acquitted him in 2023 on those charges. Yet Trabelsi's fate remains in limbo, as he might be sent to Tunisia to face charges there. Christoph Metzelder stood at the heart of Germany's defense in the 2002 World Cup final and won La Liga with Real Madrid. His towering frame and calm presence made him a fan favorite at Borussia Dortmund and Schalke. He seemed to transition smoothly after retiring in 2014, doing punditry, running a youth charity, even coaching. But behind the polite, polished exterior, Metzelder carried a secret that destroyed his legacy. In 2019, German authorities received a tip and opened an investigation, and what they found was horrifying. Metzelder had been in possession of child pornography and was sharing explicit images of children via WhatsApp. The news broke in 2020 and sent shockwaves through German football. Metzelder initially denied it, but when his case went to trial in April 2021, he confessed to several charges. The former defender admitted in court that he shared images, saying, "I take responsibility. I have to live with this guilt for the rest of my life." The judge found him guilty of distributing child pornography. Given his confession and lack of prior offenses, Metzelder received a 10-month suspended prison sentence. No jail time, but a conviction that forever brands him. The court heard how he sent at least 29 illicit files to acquaintances online. The reaction was one of collective disappointment and disgust. His name was swiftly scrubbed from honors. His former club removed him from its Hall of Fame, and his charity was dissolved. Metzelder retreated entirely from public life. Souleymane Diawara made his name as a rugged center back in France's Ligue 1, winning a title with Marseille in 2010 and representing Senegal internationally. On the field, he he was a leader. Off it, he tried to become a vigilante, and it landed him in serious trouble. After retiring, Diawara had a dispute with a car dealer who sold him a Porsche that turned out to be stolen. Feeling cheated, the ex-defender decided to take the law into his own hands. In March 2015, Diawara and a crew of accomplices paid a 3 a.m. visit to the seller's home. With the man's wife and kids terrified onlooking, they demanded 50,000 euros, roughly the price of the car, at gunpoint, and even seized another vehicle as collateral. French police soon caught up with the footballer turned extortionist. Diawara was arrested and spent 2.5 months in jail during the investigation. In 2019, his case finally went to trial. Prosecutors alleged that Diawara orchestrated the extortion plot and asked the court to impose a 3-year prison term. The once imposing defender now sat in a defendant's chair, facing the very justice he'd tried to sidestep. In the end, he received a sentence including 1 year of actual imprisonment, the rest suspended, effectively time already served behind bars. Diawara's reputation took a massive hit. He had been a hero in Marseille's Stade Velodrome. Now he was known for a midnight revenge scheme. Tony Vairelles was the classic hometown hero turned national star. The striker from Nancy, France won Ligue 1 titles with Lens and Lyon, and even earned 8 caps for Les Bleus. He had a bleach blonde mullet that made him instantly recognizable and a knack for scoring key goals. But Vairelles' post-retirement chapter reads like a crime thriller. In October 2011, he and his 3 brothers were involved in a violent brawl at a nightclub near Nancy. After being kicked out by bouncers for unruly behavior, the Vairelles brothers didn't walk away. They came back armed. A fight broke out and shots were fired. When the dust settled, 3 nightclub security guards lay injured with gunshot wounds. Tony Vairelles, once cheered by tens of thousands in stadiums, was arrested and charged with attempted murder. He spent months in pre-trial detention before being released on bail in 2012. Then came a decade-long legal saga that dragged on with countless delays. Finally, in May 2022, the verdict arrived. Vairelles was convicted of armed assault. The charges were scaled down from attempted murder and sentenced to 5 years in prison, with 2 years suspended. Effectively, that meant 3 years of jail time for the 49-year-old ex-player. His 3 brothers also received prison terms for their roles. The courtroom heard how the brothers had returned with baseball bats and a rifle in a misguided revenge, turning a drunken scuffle into a near tragedy. It was a jaw-dropping fall from grace. Vairelles had gone from scoring in front of adoring fans to shooting at club doormen. Luigi Sartor once patrolled the flanks for Juventus, Inter Milan, and Parma in the 1990s. He wasn't a superstar, but as a Serie A journeyman, he collected a UEFA Cup title and even represented Italy at the Olympics. Post-retirement, though, Sartor made headlines not for coaching or punditry, but for going green in the worst way. In February 2021, Italian police raided an abandoned farmhouse in the hills of Parma and found Sartor there tending to 106 marijuana plants. The retired defender had set up a secret greenhouse to cultivate cannabis, presumably for the illegal drug trade. He was caught red-handed alongside an accomplice, watering and minding the crop. Authorities became suspicious when they noticed unusually high electricity usage at the derelict property, the classic giveaway for an indoor grow operation. Sartor was promptly arrested at age 46 and placed under house arrest pending trial. The man who once marked Serie A's best wingers was now branded a criminal cultivator. In March 2021, he was convicted and sentenced to 1 year, 2 months, and 26 days in prison, though much of it was suspended or served at home. It's a relatively short sentence, but the embarrassment was enormous. Fans were left shaking their heads that a former pro with such a CV, Juventus and Roma for heaven's sake, would sink to tending a weed farm in secrecy. Uli Hoeness achieved more in football by age 27 than most do in a lifetime. A World Cup champion with West Germany in 1974 and 3 European Cups with Bayern Munich. After retiring, he became the architect of Bayern's dominance as the club's longtime president. Fans saw him as Mr. Bayern, a savvy businessman who turned personal success into club glory. But Hoeness harbored a secret that eventually shocked Germany. He had been hiding millions of euros in secret Swiss bank accounts to evade taxes. The truth came out in 2013 when he was indicted for massive tax fraud. In a high-profile 2014 trial, Hoeness admitted he concealed more income than anyone realized. Prosecutors said he dodged taxes on 28.5 million euros worth of income through clandestine stock trades. The case transfixed the nation. This was Bayern's president, a hugely influential figure, now confessing to years of deceit against the public treasury. The court showed little mercy. In March 2014, Hoeness was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for tax evasion, one of the harshest penalties for such a case in German history. It was dubbed the longest sending off in Bundesliga history, as one pundit quipped. Hoeness resigned in disgrace and began serving time that summer. Remarkably, after about 20 21 months behind bars, getting out early for good behavior, Hoeness returned to Bayern's boardroom, his redemption aided by forgiving fans. But the stain remains. A titan of football management turned convicted financial criminal. Uli Hoeness' story proved that even those at the pinnacle of sports business can succumb to greed. He lifted every trophy as a player and executive, yet ended up trading his suit for a prison jumpsuit. These cautionary tales prove that fame and skill on the football pitch don't grant immunity from life's temptations or from justice. Each of these players climbed to the top in their sporting careers, only to make choices that drag them into disgrace. From fraud and drugs to violence and worse, their post-retirement descents into crime have shocked fans and destroyed reputations. The beautiful game has an ugly side when idols turn evil after the final whistle. Let their stories be lessons in humility. No amount of trophies can excuse trafficking, theft, assault, or corruption. In the end, the law doesn't care how many goals you scored, only what you did when the cheering stopped.